Welcome one and all to Comic Book Central, where comic books come to life, the world's first podcast devoted exclusively to in-depth interviews with the talented folks who bring comics to life in film, TV, animation, video games, podcasts, and beyond. I'm your host, Joe Stuber. Thank you so much for joining me here in the lair today for part 2 of my adventure at FanExpo Cleveland. Yeah, that's the comic book and pop culture convention. It makes stops all over the U.S. and Canada. Here in Ohio, Cleveland is the stop for FanExpo. Hope you caught part 1. If you didn't, by all means, then after today's show, you can go back and check it out at the show's page at Spreaker.com. Of course, you've got the archive at the website, comicbookcentral.net. We've got the YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe over there. Lots of exclusive content on the YouTube channel. The podcast can also be found at every platform, including Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you find your cool podcasts. Comic Book Central Lair is there. And if you want to attend any FanExpo event in person, FanExpoHQ.com. That's where you want to be. All right, lots of guests to get to today. First, let's pay a few bills, then I will be back with part 2 of my adventure to FanExpo Cleveland. All right, continuing to make my way around Celeb Village at FanExpo Cleveland. And who did I run into? None other than actor DJ Qualls. Now, many of you know DJ from his roles on the sci-fi horror series Z Nation, movies like Road Trip and Comic Book Villains, and a memorable guest appearance on The Big Bang Theory. Not easy to steal a scene from Jim Parsons on that show, but DJ, he definitely did do it. So I got to chat with him about a few things, including a recent gig at a place I'm very familiar with in Pennsylvania. Welcome to Cleveland. How's the weekend been? I know it's been a little bit of up and a down ride for you this week.
It's been busy. I came tired and a little sick. I was in Mexico last week with my partner, and we did a little bit of everything, a little bit too much. So I came tired.
The lesson is don't overdo it right before a convention? Is that what we're telling folks?
There's no lesson to be learned from this. I'm not going to alter my behavior.
At what age do you start learning lessons?
I think at this age I've learned everything I'm going to learn.
How old are you?
50.
I got some news for you. You recently made an appearance in my old stomping grounds, Altoona, PA, for a convention. Yeah, I used to work in Altoona, PA.
I ate at the McDonald's where they arrested the homie. What's his name? The guy who killed the CEO?
Chuck Mangio?
Yeah.
Chuck Mangio.
Not Chuck Mangio.
Luigi.
Yeah, Luigi.
Okay.
Were they arrested Luigi?
I'm certain they didn't put up any kind of notoriety about that fact.
No, I was there before, so
somebody told you
first.
that was the one?
Well, I know it was, because I saw it on the news.
Okay.
I'm like, I've eaten those same hash browns at that same McDonald's.
I don't know what to make of that. And then you also shot a movie in State College. I worked there as well. What was that experience? A period piece, right? Is this the 1780?
It was a Revolutionary War picture.
Okay.
Super fun. I love dress up, and the late 18th century is sort of my favorite time period. Like, I love the powdered wigs and the tricorn hats.
Okay. For an actor, that's got to be
It's so fun.
The most amazing thing. But spoiler alert, at the last convention you told everybody you die in the film.
I die quick.
So we should just not expect you through the entire movie, right? Do you have a good on-screen death?
I do. I do. I have
How many takes?
Dude, so many takes. Because I get shot and then stabbed to death with a bayonet.
Oh,
so it was a lot of choreography to sell the shot. And also a bayonet shot is pretty violent. I mean, a musket shot is pretty violent. On the end of the Yeah, so there's a lot. It's not like you don't just get shot and go down. You get shot, you get spun around, you convulse. It's a whole thing.
Born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee, you worked at a law office. How do you go from working in a law office to a career in acting? Is there anything you could take from one gig to the next? Speaking of lessons learned.
No, I just one day decided that I couldn't do that anymore. That I was not happy at my job, and I wound up. There was an announcement in the Nashville newspaper that they were shooting a movie in Atlanta, and I went down to audition for a one-line part in it, and wound up getting a lead. And like 9 months later, I was on The Tonight Show. But my boss, Bart Durham, who's now passed, was nice enough to nudge me out of the nest. He knew I wasn't happy, so he gave me 6 weeks of severance on the condition I moved to L.A.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Well, that worked out.
Yeah.
You've mentioned previously that you do take things from sets, from movie sets. First of all, did you take anything from 1780?
Because it was all rented.
Okay.
So stuff that's really period specific, it's hard. It's hard to also get on a plane with a musket.
Fair.
But no, I didn't take anything from that movie.
Okay. What about comic book villains? You had to have taken something from comic book villains.
I took a full outfit from that show. The outfit that I'm wearing when the old lady is dying and I'm holding her. I took that whole outfit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another genre project that we love is your appearance on The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Very tough to still scenes from that cast, but you were able to accomplish it, I think.
I knew them all before the show.
Okay.
I've known Kaylee Cuoco since she was a teenager. Johnny Galecki I've now known for 25 years. So it was just a really comfortable working environment. And then I spent the last 2 years on Chuck Lorre's HBO show called Bookie.
Was there any ad-lib during those scenes? Because it feels like you and Jim Parsons were kind of...
I don't remember. I think on that show it's so word specific. And also I had this scene where I broke the fourth wall and delivered this monologue directly to camera, and it was rewritten every single day. So
wow.
I didn't know my for my elbow for that because I didn't know what I was saying.
All right. What did you take from the set of Big Bang Theory?
Nothing. I took
Oh, come on.
No.
You had to have taken something.
Some hurt
coffee
feelings.
mugs.
I didn't take anything from it.
Do you have a favorite acting experience so far throughout your career, or is there
Yeah.
something that you're just chomping at the bit to get to?
Legit was special. This show I did with Jim Jeffries. I played a guy with advanced stage muscular dystrophy, and it's the funniest thing I've ever done. It was a show where everybody was fair game, and then people from that community reached out and just loved that people were including them on the jokes. Like, when you're different, like I had cancer when I was a child, and I remember what you wanted more than anything was a day off where people didn't treat you like a sick person. And so that's what I felt like we gave to the people who have muscular dystrophy.
1780 we know is coming up. What else you got going on, and how can fans find out more about you?
I just finished a movie called Sky Valley. It's an alien abduction movie with some Native American lore. We just finished it in New Mexico. I have no idea when it's coming out. And then I'm on vacation. I just got back from vacation, but I'm not working for 6 months.
Okay. Socials, you're out there?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, I think just DJ Qualls. Twitter, the only DJ Qualls, because somebody had my name. And I think it's the same on TikTok.
DJ, thanks for joining me on Comic Book Central.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
All right, folks, as I promised you on the last episode, I am going to revisit one of the greatest comic book teams turned into animated series of all time. That would be X-Men, the animated series. It ran on Fox from 1992 to 1997. It was a smash hit. And you longtime listeners know that this is not the first time I talked about the show. My in-depth interview with show writers Eric and Julia Lewald was back on episode 199. And my in-depth conversation with the voice of Wolverine, Cal Dodd, that is on episode 202. And I also caught up with Cal at Terrificon on episode 450. Well, at FanExpo Cleveland, I met up with two more folks from X-Men, the animated series. First up, he brought the character of Dr. Hank McCoy, a.k.a. Beast, to life, actor George Buza. You're a Cleveland guy?
Originally, yeah.
Okay, welcome back.
Well,
when was
you.
the last time you were here? How often do you get back home?
Oh, I get back home every few months because my family's still down here.
Yeah.
And the last time was October. I tend to take a break in the winter because getting through Buffalo in the wintertime is a real dicey situation.
Oh, yeah.
They measure their snow in feet.
I've been up through Buffalo toward the wintertime. I've been through Cleveland in the wintertime. Lake effects are not fun.
Oh, no, they're not.
Yeah.
I've always lived on the north end of the lake since I left Cleveland, so we don't get that same kind of deluge.
Yeah. What do you do here when you're in Cleveland? Give us where do I need to be when I'm in Cleveland?
Well, I go to my brother's place where
Okay, I won't show up there.
he lives in Valley View. So I enjoy going along the canal. We have a couple of favorite restaurants.
I was going to say, what do you recommend?
Well, Tinker's Creek Tavern is by far
Right.
my favorite. The scenery is amazing. It's right on the shores of Tinker Creek, and they got an outside patio. You can have lunch right by the river. The food is amazing, and they have some nice craft beers.
Nice. I'm adding all those to my list. I want to talk about the time you moved from Cleveland to Toronto. Did you move directly there?
Yeah.
And then getting involved with the folks from SCTV, Second City, and Maniac Mansion. How did that come about, and how amazing was it to work with those comedic
juggernaut.
Well, my venture into Toronto came by Trumpet in the Land, which is the historical drama down in New Philadelphia. The director was a Canadian, and he had brought a Canadian actor with him, and the two of us became friends, and he talked me into a trip up to Stratford to see the season there, because he had friends in the cast. And from there, we went to Toronto. He says, let's party for another week. I was, at the time, a graduate student at Kent State. And we went to Toronto, and I met a couple of the people there, one of them being Des McAnuff, who went on to write Jersey Boys and direct Tommy on Broadway. And he was previewing one of his new plays, and he gave me a part in it. So I finished my work at Kent and went back to Toronto and did the show. And I kept getting offered more and more work. So eventually I had to come back to Cleveland and apply for permanent residence status in Canada, because I was getting offered so much work there. And this was all in live theater. And then one of the actors in one of the plays I was doing was in The Voice. And he suggested that I meet with some voice agents, and I got a couple of commercials and a couple of animated parts, and it took off from there.
Okay.
And then once I got into doing television and film, I auditioned for SCTV, and they liked me, and I did about 3 episodes as an incidental character. I had a scene where I punched out Pierre Trudeau, another scene where I was the bartender with John Mellencamp.
Oh, that's okay. Okay.
And there was another one, and then I also did a bunch of shows on Bizarre, which was
with John Biner.
Was
it on Showtime? Was this a Showtime?
Okay,
but I think they picked it up from Canada, right?
Yeah. And then from there, they came out with Maniac Mansion, and I auditioned for the 4-year-old kid, and I got the part. And then I went on to do several other projects that were SCTV inspired. I did the Sodbusters with Chris Christopherson, and there was like half the cast of Barney Miller on that movie. And then they did another one about being Canadian, and I played a border guard. I can't remember the name of the movie, but I had a long relationship with the SCTV people and Eugene Levy, and one thing led to another. And
do you recall the process of getting the role of Hank on X-Men? And was it an audition? Did they go to you directly? How did that work out? And how did you find the character?
Well, they sent out a general casting call for this thing called Project X. And I go on to say in all the panels that we do that I was the only actor in the cast who looked at the sides and went, not only did they give away half the title of the show, but Project X my foot. This is X-Men. Because I read
a fan.
I was a fan. I read the comics when I was a kid. I was 10 or 11 years old when X-Men #1 hit the stands.
Oh, wow.
So it was a perfect squeeze time for comic books. And it was right next to my weekly issue of Superman. And I reached there's Superman, and I went, oh, what's this? And X-Men, this looks interesting.
Yeah.
And so by the time it came to audition, I had goosebumps, because here's a part of my childhood.
The weight of the history started to come back in on you. Okay.
And all of a sudden, I get a chance to play Beast.
Wow.
It was, and then the parallel to my own youth and the character of Beast. I was a fat kid in the school, 1950s, not cool. Not to mention the fact that my parents dressed me like a nerd. So I took a lot of guff on the playground. And it got to the point where I didn't even want to go to school anymore because I got bullied. And then one day, I'd had enough. And I call it going Beast. Because I dropped the guy that came after me.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, everybody's kind of, whoa, what was that?
Nice.
And I went, holy mackerel.
And he didn't bother you again.
And he didn't bother me anymore.
So you channeled that rage.
I channeled that.
For the character.
And I also had, various other instances where I would be defending myself, and then things would turn into legal hassles. And I was counseled one time by a judge at a very, very young age that even though you were in the right because of your size, people will think that it's you who is the aggressor.
Oh, okay.
So he says, whenever possible, he says either walk away or diffuse the situation. And this is also something that I channeled into Hank. And that's the character of Beast. At all costs, walk away.
I knew him.
I knew
who
him.
This was.
Absolutely, inside and out.
Almost 30 years later, you're approached again. How does the experience now with the new version of it?
Well, they've captured the essence of the characters and the entire show 100%. When I was reading the first script of X-Men 97, it felt like I just put down the last script of the first series.
Wow, that close.
It was that close. I could not tell that there was a difference between the writing, between what the characters did, and it was mind-blowing, really. And the whole experience was so deja vu. We are recording in the exact same studio we did the original series in.
Wow. Are you recording with the cast as well, or is
We're
it
all
only
doing
you?
it.
Or you?
We're all doing it individual now.
Okay. It's I was going to say a lot different world now.
It's a totally technologically. You don't need to be all together. You can be anywhere you could be in your own home.
Yeah. But the history of that space.
The history of the space. I still like going into the studio.
Yeah. It puts you. It's like old school, man. That's
It
like
is.
old
That's
school.
right. You know, they've dragged me into the 21st century, kicking and screaming.
you and me both. Yeah.
I just discovered why my phone wouldn't tell me where I was going
Why?
on GPS. Because I didn't flip a stupid switch. It said
okay.
media something or other, and I
Yeah.
didn't know what that meant.
Yeah, I know.
My brother, who's 6 years younger, here, you just press that button, and all of a sudden, my phone told me how to get here.
Yeah. I say if you want something done, give it to a 12-year-old because they'll be able to figure
Well,
it out.
it doesn't even have to be just somebody younger that's more adaptable to the technology.
How does it feel for you coming back to the character after so long? And can you give us just a little bit of where you're at now with them?
Well, it was exhilarating, for one thing. How many actors get a chance to reprise a character that they did 30 years ago? I mean, this is the advantage you have when you're doing voice. As long as your voice hasn't turned into a rasp and you still sound reasonably like the one you did 30 years ago, you don't have to look your best. The only difference right now is that I limp into the studio with a cane, and I don't have as much hair.
Can't tell any of that on the microphone, though. That's a good thing. What's next for you after this, and how can fans find out more about what's going on in your life?
Well, unfortunately, I don't participate in anything that is online, none of that Facebook or anything. I don't take pictures of what I just ate.
Fair. It's fair.
But all I'm involved in now is X-Men. And occasionally I do some little kids' cartoons. I had a recurring role on My Little Pony, which has gotten canceled. I also played the grandfather of Eleanor on Eleanor Wonders Why, which just got canceled. So it's narrowed down to doing X-Men 97, and that's it.
We're glad Hank's back. We're glad you're back. You're here with your buddy Larry. What's it like working with Larry after all these years again? Because I think they brought him in as a consulting producer, right?
Yes, they did.
You gotta
Well, we've been on the same circuit doing Comic-Con since 2017.
Yeah.
And Larry and I have been together on dozens and dozens of shows. And we've been doing I did the FanExpo in Toronto, and then this one with Larry.
You're like an old married couple at this point?
Yeah. We both like to eat a lot of food in the restaurants.
And now we know where to go.
And Tinker's Creek is a little far. Tonight I think we're going to the Texas Roadhouse.
Nice.
Because we like steaks.
Okay. Well, this will be after that, but if somebody wanted to see Beast at some point, we know where to go in Cleveland.
Yeah.
George, thank you so much for joining me on Comic Book Central, and continued success.
Well, thank you very much. And fans, thank you very much for watching us, because without you, we never would have come back.
And staying in the X-Men, the animated series, and X-Men 97 world, seated right next to George was the man who helped bring X-Men, the animated series, to life, producer-director Larry Houston.
Okay, welcome to Cleveland.
Welcome.
Your desk mate over here, he's from Cleveland. He's taking you around, telling you that I heard you guys are going to Roadhouse Steak for steaks tonight.
Yeah, him and I both are like big meat eaters, so we love to go eat some nice steak and some ribs and stuff.
Cleveland is the best place, right? I'll tell you, you're in the right place. Yeah. Okay, how did you go from systems analyst for McDonnell Douglas to Saturday morning TV? Is there a pathway for that? And was there anything that you took from your former gig that you were able to apply to Saturday animation? I don't even know if that's possible, but
no. My first job, when I left high school, was becoming fixing computers, and the last job in computers I had was a systems analyst for McDonnell Douglas, and it was a good 7 years, but I got bored. I was running diagnostics, and I'm drawing my own little cartoons for myself.
Okay, so you had that sort of artistic bent to you already. Oh, yeah. And the computers just weren't cutting it.
Right. I've always been reading comic books since I was in elementary school, drawing, tracing, all that kind of stuff all the way. And I knew people who were working in the industries, like at Disney, at Warner Brothers, at Hanna-Barbera. And back then, the jobs was seasonal, where they hire you in January, they fire you in September, they hire you back, and that's the way it went.
All right.
And so they told me when they were hiring. So that's when I went down and applied, took a test, and that's how I got into animation. Then I naively thought, well, great, I'm in animation. Computers will never I'll never see computers again.
Wow.
Little did I know.
No, they'll never take over.
No, not at all. I'm in animation.
Artificial intelligence is the stuff of science fiction.
Yes,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think some of what I brought from being in computers to animation, what I took with me was the discipline and of doing the job, follow up, making sure everything worked, and just bringing that forward into animation so that I could be a reliable artist.
I was going to say, because that is meticulous, because you were doing storyboards and producing, and so tell the folks a little bit about what you're doing. I think was Thundar almost first up or very early on?
Thundar was very early on. My first job at Marvel Productions was Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Yeah, classic.
You
wrote an episode too, right? Was it Swarm?
I got a chance to write Swarm. At the time, they were having difficulties trying to get a premise through to NBC. I asked the story editor, could I give it a shot? He said yes. So I wrote the premise for Swarm. It was like the first one that they approved.
Right. Yeah, it was out of the gate. Yeah, out of the gate, right.
Yeah, and then from that point forward, I was still a storyboard artist. So I did that for about 5 years working there on Spider-Man Amazing Friends, and then G.I. Joe, a little bit on Transformers, the Hulk and stuff like that.
Right.
And then I got on G.I. Joe, and one of the directors moved on. And so the supervising director, he knew I always wanted to be a director.
Nice.
So he came to me and said, "You want to fill in that slot?" I went, "Oh, hell yeah."
Right place, right time.
Yes. And so from that point forward, in about 84, 85, that's when I became a director, and I've been a director ever since.
Yeah. What were the challenges that you faced in bringing X-Men, the animated series, to life?
No, the challenge is that nobody wanted it.
That's a big one.
We did a pilot in the mid-'80s called Pride of the X-Men. We thought we did an excellent job. We got really good animation, but nobody wanted it. Everybody passed on it. CBS, NBC, ABC, they didn't get it. They were more into Scooby-Doo and Super Friends.
Right.
And so they didn't get. They thought the show was wrong for their demographics. Right. Fast forward. Well, before doing.
I was going to say, when you pitched it, was it pitched as sort of like a more, not necessarily adult, but more serious take on Saturday morning?
Yes, and that's exactly what they didn't want.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because they wanted the zoinks and the little toys and great hair.
Give them a dog or something like that.
That's a dog, right?
Yes, it was like
even Spider-Man is Amazing Friends. You had the Ms. Lion, right?
Yep, that was a compromise. They had to do Ms. Lion, do a dog, and it's like, oh crap,
No dogs in X-Men.
So we had no dogs in X-Men, so it didn't work.
We got a beast, but we
right. That's what else we got. Yeah, and so when I was working at Marvel Productions, I had two executives. One was Stan Lee, one was Margaret Lesh. Fast forward after that pilot, in about 1992, she became the CEO of Fox Kids. She's the one who called me and told me we're going to do the X-Men. And that's how I got to work on this version of the X-Men. And for me, I've always been a fanboy, so I wanted to make sure it was an accurate adaptation. And so I physically brought in my books from home and put it on a Xerox machine because, believe it or not, the internet didn't exist back then. and so I had to Xerox it off copies to all the departments for the character designs, model designs, backgrounds, the whole 9 yards came from my comic books. And that I wanted to do something that if I was a 9 or 10-year-old person, I want to see this version on the air. And so that's what I did. Yeah. And the one nice thing most people don't know about is that when Margaret greenlit the show for Fox in 1992, I found out maybe a decade ago, her boss thought it was a mistake. He didn't want, he thought, X-Men, really? But he said, Margaret, if you believe in the show, we're going to put the X-Men on the air. But if the show fails, it's your job. She never told me that. I would have been a mess if she had told me that.
She didn't.
Yes, I'm glad. Yeah.
So you mentioned working with the late great Stan Lee.
Yeah.
He wanted to narrate, because he was. We always remember, on Spider-Man: Amazing Friends, there was the narration. He'd always come in, and so he kind of wanted to do that, and you were like, that didn't work.
No, and that was a very awkward position that we got put into. Yeah, because he was our boss. Yeah. He narrated The Pride of the X-Men.
Right.
He narrated Spider-Man's Amazing Friends.
Right.
And so we were doing the X-Men, and we just felt like, no, it's not going to work for this type of show. So it was three of us, Will Mineo, Rick Holberg, and myself. We voted, and we said, Will, it's your turn to go talk to Stan and tell him he can't. We're not going to have him be the narrator of the show, so he got to be the person to do that. But, for the kind of show we wanted to do, all three of us grew up with Johnny Quest, the original one in the 60s. All that jazzy music from Hoyt Curtin and images, and that's what we want the X-Men to be, with no narration. So that was our choice.
Worked out.
Yeah.
How shocked were you that it came back all these years later now, almost 30 years later?
Oh, when this came back, I was totally shocked because, to be quite honest, after I finished the show in 1997, it was like I thought people forgot about the show, because it's like out of sight, out of mind. I moved on to other shows. I had retired back in 2016. I was out of the business. I was at home. And then Disney bought the rights back, the Fantastic Four and X-Men. And then I got a call from Disney saying that they wanted me to come on board to be a consultant producer on the show. I went, that never happens in Hollywood. That never happens in Hollywood. Nobody ever goes back to the original guys.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, I was impressed.
Wow.
And so when I got a chance to go into the studio and meet the new production team, they're all fans of the old show. So it felt really, it felt really good. I appreciated being appreciated, the appreciation, because I didn't think anybody remembered the show.
Yeah. You're like the dad coming in, and all of a sudden you get to look at all these kids that he's influenced over the years. I know there's been a lot of controversy with the show, with the changing of showrunners and different things like that. What was your perception of what happened, and how was that ship able to right itself? Were you able to sort of give a guiding hand in that, or how did that play out in your eyes?
In my what happened with the previous director, I've worked for Disney before, and when you work for Disney, you're working for Disney has a certain image, and so there's the image and there's internal politics, and so you have to learn how to navigate that. And I think he stepped on one too many toes, or I don't have any direct knowledge of what happened,
right. But you knew something happened, and show must go on.
Yes.
So were you able to sort of come in and help out a little bit in that area, or
only in terms of
or even be a cheerleader. Just like, let's go to,
Yeah, because I'm not in
Xavier.
production, and like Xavier, just in production, just keep it going, and giving my support to everybody that's there. Disney is got a hierarchy of executives, and so they were able to make their decisions.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of like, all right, who's the next story editor? Oh, okay, I go meet him.
There you go.
And then we got a chance to go over season 3 together. 2 and 3, and so it's like I gave him my 2 cents, talked to him about the show, and so everything's moving forward.
It's great to have the original cast back. It's great to have OGs like yourself coming in to provide that steady hand, to provide the spirit of the show.
Yeah.
What's next? What's coming up, and how can fans find out a little bit more about what you got going on?
For me, you can probably find me on, let's see, my son set it up.
I think there's a website.
I think I have a
Forget
website.
those old computer things. Who cares about those? Right?
Larry-Houston.com.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Instagram is LarryTunes54, and I think my Facebook is Larry F. Houston. So you can find me at those 3 places.
Xmen 97. Anything else going on, or is that taking up all your time right now?
It's taking up a lot of time. It's weird, but nowadays, where I have to go into work every day, half the time is Zooms.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to people in these little squares on my screen. Yes.
You get the Brady Bunch meetings. Yeah.
Whereas before, you go in and talk face to face.
You're back to your computer days.
Yes.
After all these years, you thought you could get rid of them. You can't get rid of them, Larry.
No, they came back. It's like, oh my God, yeah. Well, the nice thing about it is that when computers were invading into animation, I wasn't scared of it because I knew what it was.
Right.
It's all software, it's not hardware. But my friends who were didn't know computers at all, they were freaking out. I'm going, don't worry. It's a big calculator. Don't worry about it.
Somebody still has to run them.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if you're the guy that runs them, then
you're okay. Yeah. So like there was a big computer at Hanna-Barbera. Bought something back in the mid '90s, and I went in there to take a look at it. And I was like, yeah, I worked on that one. Yeah, I know that one. I knew it all.
Nice. Well, thanks to you, thanks to George, thanks to everybody, all the OGs, for keeping the spirit of this show alive and keeping the show itself alive. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much. I did my best to make the X-Men, my X-Men, into a living comic book. And I tried to always channel my inner child, take my adult cynicism, put it to the side, and I'm working on the show, so if I can do something and my inner kid's going yeah, that'll cool if he does this, does that, does this, that's what I put into the show.
Never grow up. That's the key. Never grow up, man.
Yes.
Thanks so much for joining me on Comic Book Central.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Had a marvelous time chatting about X-Men with George and Larry, and if you are a fan of the series and X-Men 97, stay tuned till the end of today's show. I've got a special surprise for you. All right, wrapping up things at FanExpo Cleveland, I wanted to talk to the man who is running around all weekend long, making sure everyone is having a great time. Here with a rundown of this year's show and a preview of upcoming events is FanExpo PR Manager Jerry Milani.
Well, I usually don't get to talk to Jerry at this end of the show. It's usually at the beginning of the show and preview what's ahead, but we're doing the wrap-up on Sunday. It's getting later on Sunday. How did the FanExpo Cleveland 2025, how did that go this year?
I mean, I think it exceeded all the expectations. I mean, we have very high expectations. This is the 10th year if you count the Wizard World years, which of course I do.
And I
it's
do too.
A fourth year overall,
yeah.
But I think that people who have come to the show over time recognize that the show has a similar feel, just maybe like a little bit bigger time feel, maybe than sometimes at the Wizard World.
Is it getting bigger?
Had.
I mean, are you seeing that?
It is. This year we expanded the show floor footprint. We moved some things that were on the show floor down into the area by the where the panels are, and just expanding stuff on the show floor.
Oh yeah,
so
the Siegel Schuster Society, they were down there. They had a really nice setup. A lot of you've opened up so much to that. What were your favorite parts about this weekend? I know there was, the Smallville cast was here, the Flash cast was here. What for you stood out as some of the biggest moments of the weekend?
I mean, for me, I don't really get a lot of time to go see kind of what's happening. So for me, though, but I live vicariously through the people who have come by and enjoyed different things that are going on. I think it's that what I like the most about the FanExpo shows is not so much the opportunity for people to meet celebrities, but for people to meet each other. For people who have similar fandoms to, while they're waiting online for Jared Padalecki, they can talk Supernatural and they can talk about what they love about it. I was waiting this morning. We were doing some media with Channel 5 was here and doing some. We're waiting online for the Weasley brothers, for the Phelps twins, and there was a line already forming to meet him when he got there in terms of doing his autographs. And these were people who didn't know each other, but you'd never know it.
Right.
You know, they just are online. They're talking about the show. They're talking about the books. They're talking about what they love about the character, about these actors, and people meeting each other and people. So for me, that might have been the highlight, is just seeing these fans who are interacting with each other, didn't know each other, but maybe they're going to go be fast friends now. Maybe they're going to join an organization that supports that, or just be friends because they both like the same things.
Right. So FanExpo Cleveland 2025 is almost in the books here, wrapping up the last few hours. What's next, though, on the FanExpo docket? Because you guys have a lot of different cities. I think you're bouncing around most of them, aren't you? Or if not all of them?
Well, no, I do 4.
Okay, that's
myself.
a lot. That's a lot for a year.
Used to do them all. I do 4, but 4, it's like 4 Super Bowls.
You're delegating.
So
You're learning to delegate.
This is my third, and the fourth one for me will be in Philadelphia on May 16, 17, 18. And
what's going on there?
Yeah, so we're just announcing our field for that, but we're going to have Philadelphia shows with a footprint about twice the size of this footprint, and It's been going on for 25 years.
Wow.
So it also has that going for it. But in terms of the celebrity, Priscilla Presley is going to be at Philadelphia. So that's every time we add someone like that who hasn't, you don't think about Comic-Con, you don't think about Priscilla Presley.
Right.
But remember, the show is pop culture. It's not just comics. It's not just sci-fi.
Right.
And it's not just the superhero world. It's anything in pop culture, and honestly, that's a pop culture name that for some of us resonates for 30 plus years, all the way back to the Naked Gun and even before that.
I mean, Graceland's still going strong when you get that. I think there's a Back to the Future anniversary this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, this would be the 40th anniversary. So we had a celebration in New Orleans with the 40th anniversary, and had several of the cast members. Yeah. We will have some of the cast members in Philadelphia as well. Some of the down the cast list people there. But it's a property that people love, and a property that also has that fandom that's endeared to it for all that time. Not just the 3 movies, but all the things, all the books, all the video games, all the things that have come through it.
And the Broadway show, I saw that was amazing too. But it's a 40th anniversary, huge anniversary. And what else is coming? What other cities are coming up that people can look forward to if it's in their area?
Yeah, I mean, we're all over the country and in Canada.
Right.
So we had the big MegaCon show, is the big show back in Orlando that they did last month.
Okay.
But yeah, Denver, Dallas, San Francisco, or some of the U.S. cities, Chicago, or some of the U.S. cities that really FanExpo's put its footprint in, and this stamped this brand of Comic-Con or pop culture festival.
Jerry, thanks so much for talking to me today, and thanks for having Comic Book Central out every year here to Cleveland. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Glad to have you out.
Thanks.
All right, there is a huge Back to the Future reunion gearing up for FanExpo Dallas. That event takes place May 30th through June 1st. By my count, if I got this right, 15 cast members and crew members, including Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thompson. A bunch of them are going to be there. FanExpoHQ.com. That's where you want to be to find out all the information for every show they've got going on. My thanks to Jerry and the Fan Expo team for always welcoming Comic Book Central to the show. And of course, my thanks to my guests, Dante Bosco, George Newbern, Rags Morales, Gary Kaplan and Lee Goldie from the Siegel-Schuster Society, DJ Qualls, George Buza, and Larry Houston for taking the time to chat with me at the show. I had a blast. Okay, kids, and that is a wrap on my visit to FanExpo Cleveland for 2025, but it is not a wrap on my time with folks from the Xmen universe, because next time on Comic Book Central, today you heard from Beast. Next time on the show, you're going to hear from Rogue. That's right, the voice of Rogue from X-Men, the animated series, and X-Men 97. Lenore Zan will be here. She's going to talk about the iconic animated series, returning to the role almost 30 years later, and her new memoir, A Rogue's Tale. You can order it now on Amazon. Go get it. We're going to be talking about that on the next episode. Until then, keep safe, keep reading those comics, and thanks for joining me here in the Lair. Comic Book Central, where comic books come to life. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Comic Book Central. All of the content and names are registered trademarks and copyrights of their respective holders.